I have a couple of things to say before the video starts. This video will be divided into two sections. First, I'll be showcasing my Inktober drawings with live commentary, and then I'll shift into a retrospective with my thoughts on Inktober overall. With that all covered, enjoy the video. Salutations one and all, you may call me Enigma, and welcome to my Inktober art showcase. Quick forewarning, if you hear noise in the background, like furniture moving or um, voices talking about stuff, try to ignore it. I'm recording this the day after Halloween, and my family is already putting up Christmas decorations, as you do. Oh my god, my mic peaked there. Anyway, so Inktober Art Showcase. We are doing this live. So yeah, Inktober overall, it is what it is. I like some of these drawings. I don't like some of these drawings. Definitely felt burnout at times. Some of these I think I was really feeling it. So I guess let's just dive right into it. So prompt one was backpack, and I ended up drawing this. So most of these are going to be monster designs. I believe there are two. I can't remember to show the camera. There were two that I believe were not monster designs. We'll get to those eventually. But most of these are going to be monsters and monster designs. For this one, for Backpack, initially I was going to do a sort of little kind of gremlin kind of character who collects parts of monsters and puts it in a backpack. And I was going to draw a bunch of my past monsters and stuff for it. But then I realized most people at this point in my channel don't know a lot of my monster designs, so they wouldn't really recognize any of them. So maybe something to do in the future, down the line. But as of now, not in the heart of the cards. So I switched my idea a little bit and made more of a tall, stocking figure that collects parts of animals and puts them in a backpack. How this thing got this backpack, don't know. Um, Maybe we'll have some more reason for it. I don't know. But in this image, we can see it's kind of a skeletal figure. Um, Reason for that, not much of a reason. It was scary. I don't know. I think it looks cool overall. I mean, some of these lines don't make any sense, but it is what it is. And it is staring down this sheep. It's got a deer antler and a cow leg in the backpack. Um, I think I really like how this background turned out. I think that looks really good. And the sheep's okay. The monster itself it's all right. It was supposed to be a lot further back, but I kind of failed the perspective there. It is what it is. It happens. And then the rest is there. So yeah, that's backpack. Uh, I like this one. I think it turned out pretty good. I don't have any you know strong feelings against it. I think it's decent, and I don't mind it at all. So we're gonna move on to the next one now. Prompt two was discover. I kind of had a problem with this prompt. I didn't really know what to do. Um, Mainly because I didn't want to have to draw a person. I didn't want to go into this drawing people. I wanted to draw monster designs, but I had to make something to discover the thing. So I ended up with this guy, and he doesn't look very good, does he? But that's okay. That's okay. Um, I ended up for the actual monster, the focus of the piece, with this kind of flesh, fleshy door with a giant eye. It's not that creative. Um, it just kind of is what it is, and the environment obviously looks horrible. Probably wouldn't even be able to tell what it is without me telling you. This is supposed to be a cave. Like these are two teenagers who went cave dwelling, and they ran into something freaky, and he's freaking out. you know. Yeah, I really don't like this one. Um, Mainly because I think the environment I didn't do a very good job of illustrating it. Also, I don't like how the person turned out here. And I think the monster design, while not bad, isn't very creative. So yeah, this one, like, I don't hate it, but I don't really like it. I don't think it's very good. Prop number three was boots. Now, I actually do quite like the monster design I did here, and I kind of came up with quite a bit of, lore for him. Uh, so basically, I think I ended up calling him the Weatherman. I know, I'm so funny, I'm so creative. Um, so this is a monster that it's got like a cloud for a face, right? Otherwise, it's depicted as just a very tall man in rain gear. Now, the reason he's in rain gear is so his mood changes, or how he acts changes depending on the weather. So, if it were a sunny day, he'd probably be docile. Also, the cloud face thing would not be this dark, stormy cloud. It would probably be a white, fluffy cloud. And he would just wander about and not harm anybody and just be, docile. But when it rains, he becomes aggressive and he attacks people, kills them, and takes their rain gear. Now, he would take any rain gear overall, but I emphasized rain boots specifically, mainly because, that's the prompt. And yeah, so this wasn't my first idea for boots for this prompt. My first idea was to draw like a cabin, right? And then have this like giant standing next to the cabin that's so big you can only see its boots, and the boots are bigger than the cabin. I thought that was an okay idea, but I definitely like this a lot better. I think it's more creative. Um, Now for the drawing itself, I don't hate how it turned out. I do have problems with it, of course. The perspective on this right here doesn't really make that much sense. It should be a more harsh angle because of the harsh angle of this, but it's no big deal. It is what it is. We make mistakes and we learn, right? The actual design of him here is fine. I like it. Um, and yeah, the rest is just okay. So I like this one. I think this one is it's all right. It's good. Let's move on. Prompt four is exotic. Um, yeah. I mean, I just made a snake with feathers, basically, a giant snake with feathers in what looks like a jungle, but the trees aren't really jungly. I don't know. Yeah, there's not too much to say about this one. It's just a giant snake with feathers, and I guess it's got this design here. I think the idea of this is so these little white dots here to an animal is supposed to look like a bunch of eyes watching it, which would scare it off. Um, so yeah, that's it. Kind of like Zygarde from Pokemon, with the eyes and everything. But yeah, there's not too much to say about this. This one didn't take me very long, and not too much thought was put behind it. It's just, feathery snake. So let's move on from that one a bit quicker. Number five is binoculars. Now this one has a bit more, I guess, lore to it. So this is, a robot, and clearly its head is binocular shaped. So the idea behind this thing is it was created more in like the industrial era by some more advanced scientists. They made this robot to spy on other nations, to see what they were doing, and obviously to learn from them and get intel. So it can see ridiculously far, um, all the way over from, say, America to like Europe or Asia. And at one point or another, it got abandoned, and now it just roams around in the factory where it was created. So yeah, that's all there is to this. Um, the For the actual drawing itself, I think the pose for the creature is a bit lacking. I guess it emphasizes its size, the fact that it's craned its neck all the way over here, and even doing that, it still is all the way at the top of the window. But the rest of it is kind of just facing straight forward, which isn't very dynamic. And also, there's not a lot of contrast in value from the window spot to the actual outside of this building. Not a lot of contrast in this image at all. So that's obviously a problem. But I mean, I think the idea for the creature is fine. Yeah, let's move on to the next one. For number six, we have Trek. Was not enthusiastic about this prompt. Um, how do you define a trek in a single illustration? The only way someone would know that this is a trek and not, just a general wandering is that they have the prompt in front of them. So it's. I don't really like this prompt. I don't think it's a very good prompt for an illustration. But, I bit the bullet and made something. I didn't really care about how it was going to turn out. And yeah, it didn't turn out good, clearly. But I mean, I didn't care for this prompt. So I didn't put much effort into it. So for the actual monster design, it's just some vague figure, right? That has kind of like a tower on its back, and you can see a little person inside this tower looking out the window. So yeah, that's basically all there is to this one. Um, it's not good, and I don't really care because I didn't care for the prompt. So we're gonna move on. We are going to move on. I'm just gonna cut to here. A bunch of people walking in the hallway next to me, making a bunch of noise. So this was seven passport. Didn't care for the prompt itself, but I think I made something cool with it. So this is from the perspective of like a security guy in an airport, and he's looking at this guy's passport, and clearly he does not match. Um, so this would be some sort of like body swapper thing, some sort of monster that tries to impersonate somebody. For what reason? Unknown. Probably not good though. And I think my favorite detail of this is the name I did for him, Hugh Min. So that's fun. Um, for the actual for the background, obviously it's not good. It's not very good at all. I should have used reference, but I didn't. And that's I'm paying the price here. But the actual monster itself, I kind of like the look of it. I think it's pretty creepy. And it's also a bit different in terms of shape than most of my designs. Usually I draw more tall, slender creatures. Um, but this one obviously is pretty polar opposite to that. And, for my first crack at that, I think it turned out pretty good. So we're going to move on from this one because this video is already going to be way too long and we need to spend less time on these. Number 8 is hike. Now, also didn't care much for this prompt in terms of it being a prompt, although I like it more than trek because it's easier to illustrate. Um, but enough about my feelings towards the prompts themselves. Let's actually get into what I drew. So, why did I draw a frog person? Um, the answer to that is simple. I didn't want to draw a human. I just didn't want to do it. I did not go into this challenge thinking I would be forced to draw people. But somehow, it's happened. Um, but I managed to work around it this time by making it, fantasy. And make a frog person who's hiking through the woods and is being watched by this giant tree thing with an eye. Woo! So this is kind of my first time doing a tree design like this, more like a birch tree than an oak tree, which is what I usually do. I guess this would be an oak tree, probably. Um, I actually really like how this kind of tree texture turned out, and I'll probably do it more. I will probably do it more. But yeah, this one's pretty simple, but pretty cool, I think. Yeah, so let's move on. Okay, this one. Number 9, sun. So this is weird, huh? So this is pretty simple. I just took the sun and I made it really messed up. So those old like medieval like paintings and stuff where the sun has a face on it? I basically took that and I just I mean those drawings already are kind of creepy. and I just turned it up to 11. So he's got a mouth for eyes, teeth for nostrils, and then, just a really wide, happy smile. And then the rays of sunshine are clearly not actually rays, they are like fleshy tendrils or limbs or whatever. I actually really like how this one turned out. Um, the environment isn't that, you know, complex, but I think it serves its purpose. Also, the detail that it is dark outside, meaning this clearly is not the actual sun, because otherwise it would be very bright. And I think that adds a little more to it, just a little. I mean, it's not that big a deal of a detail, but it's something, right? So let's move on. Okay, number 10, nomadic. At this point, I was kind of getting sick of these prompts. I did not care for this prompt, so because it just felt like another one of, wandering around. So I didn't put much effort into it. I kind of just made like a half lazily made shaman design and then just put it somewhere, give it a cauldron, call it a day. So we're not going to look into this one too much because the burnout was real here. But I did employ the birch style texture of trees, so there's that. But other than that, yeah, I really didn't care about how this one turned out because I didn't care for the prompt itself. So we're gonna move on. 11 snacks. This one's fun. So, uh, yeah, I kind of had the idea immediately for snacks of, well, we're gonna have it snacking on some bones or something. And that's exactly what I did. And then I, of course, had to make the creature design. So clearly, I mean, when making a monster design, usually I think of, what is it going to do? And then how much information needs to be conveyed for what it does. So does this thing need eyes? Does this thing need legs to snack on things? No. And I think this more of illustrates its kind of um, lazy snacking nature by the fact that it's just, in this well and is snacking on some bones. Now, obviously, the silver platter with bones goes to illustrate that, obviously this thing probably didn't get a silver platter of bones. It probably didn't do that. But rather, people are like sacrificing the bones of the dead to this thing so that it is complacent and stays where it is and doesn't come and attack living people. So a little bit of lore on this one. Lore. I don't know why I keep saying lore, as in eh. Anyway, it makes it sound bigger than it is, but it's just what it is. So yeah, not too much to say about this one. I like how it turned out. Uh, Background could have been more interesting, but it's fine. We're gonna move on. 12. Remote. Did not like this prompt. Initially, I was trying to think of some kind of remote control monster, and I just didn't think of a way I could make that actually interesting. And at this time, I was pretty burnt out of this. So I decided to go the route of remote island instead, like a remote location, and went with a remote island. So this is a living island, a living remote island. So obviously there's the eye, that's the big teller, right? And then it's got this appendage with tentacles looking like a palm tree. So it looks like an island. And then you can see the shadow of these kind of tentacles going down below. So this is like some sort of jellyfish thing with a fake island here. So why would it do this? Usually when something wants to imitate something that is friendly, it's probably doing it to get you and lure you into a false sense of security. So I guess it probably hunts this way. Makes things think that it's an island and then gets them. So not too much to say about this. It's just, a living remote island. Moving on. Number 13, Horizon. So this one, um, there's not too much to say about it. It's just a giant uh, creature devouring the sun. Giant skeleton faced monster, worm thing. This is a beach, of course, for the horizon, and the sun is here. Now, even though it is dark in the background, it is the sun. The reason it's dark is because he's blocking out the sun to the rest of the atmosphere, so you got darkness there. Yeah, not too much to say about this one. I think the actual design of the creature is pretty neat. I mean, it's not that creative, but I think the way I drew it was pretty good, like execution wise. Not really anything else to say. That's all there is to this one. Let's move on, so this doesn't become the longest video ever. Number 14, Rome. Yeah, I was getting really sick of the wandering prompts. Like, why are there so many of these that mean almost the same thing? But, it's neither here nor there. So I made this kind of puppeteer-like creature um, that's walking around. It's got like peg legs and a mask, and it's just wandering around a train station. Now, I don't think I drew it very well here. I mean, I kind of like the idea of its neck craning back that far, which obviously is unnatural. However, I think when I was jotting down the ideas for it, let me find it here in this other sketchbook. One second. Here we are. I think when I drew it here, let's see, make sure you can see that. Yeah. When I drew it here, it looked a lot better. You could get a better idea for how it moves around and how it, interacts with things. Um, but yeah, I don't think I drew it as well in the final image, but that's that's the way the cookie crumbles, as they say. So I don't mind this drawing, but it could have been better. That's all. Moving on, number 15, guidebook. I think this one's really funny. So this is a. Let me make sure we're still in camera. Okay, we are. This is just a ghost that's following this guy. He's reading a book on how to possess him, or how to possess him, for guidebook. So this is a guidebook on the art of possession. Author is Poe. Um, and yeah, there's not much to say about this one. This is just a funny little one. I think it's pretty fun. And this guy looks, something's off. He can feel it. He can feel the presence. He can't see him, obviously. He's a ghost, but, he knows something's up. I think this one's comical. Background perspective is a little weird, but yeah, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. I think I like how it turned out. Moving on. Number 16, grungy. Um, so it seems there's kind of two definitions for grungy. One is kind of like grungy rock aesthetic, like grungy music, and then the other is like dirty and decrepit and whatnot. I went with dirty and decrepit. So this is an abandoned mall, and it's very dirty. And there's a big, tall, dirty creature with a bag over its head and black nails, and you kind of get the vibes of uh, that movie with the ghost girl. I don't remember the name for some reason, but you know what I'm talking about. You probably know what I'm talking about. So not too much to say about this one. Abandoned mall, dirty creature. It is what it is. Yeah. So it's grungy. Number 17 is journal. Now, I understand that a journal probably wouldn't be in a library, but I couldn't really think of anywhere else to put this thing. So I put it in a library. So it's got a journal for a face, and then it's like kind of inky. There's all this ink around the drawing. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think this is pretty neat. Maybe we have some like lore implications of if you write something in or if you write something in the journal that happens in real life. I think that's a bit of a lame one though. I think it'd be cooler if like every action it took would be written inside this journal. That might be cooler, make it more like a journal type thing. But that's not really something I could illustrate. And then we've got these bookshelves here to, give some semblance of a location other than just ink. I think this would be a better drawing if I did the contrast better. I feel like the bookshelves and the journal should be a bit darker, but I was worried if I made him too dark, it would like just kind of fade away, and you wouldn't be able to really see it. But I think I was a bit too worried about that, and I should have made it a bit darker. But it is what it is. We're gonna move on. Number 18 is Drive. I actually used reference on this one for the location. I went to Pinterest and I looked up. I think I looked up Drive or driver's view or something like that, and I found basically this image of this road here, and then looking at the mirror and seeing this location, and then I just added this giant floating brain-looking thing with flesh tubes. I don't know. Um, yeah, the monster is kind of just a thing. I didn't know what to do for this, so I just, kind of let my brain go crazy with some random stuff, and this is what I came up with. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. 19 is Ridge. Now this is one of my oldest monster designs. I've had this thing for a while. It's even got a name. This is the Valley Hopper. So at first I didn't realize what a ridge was. I thought it was just a cliff. Turns out it is a mountain with a flat top, or something like that. So we've got all these mountains with flat tops, and then we've got the Valley Hopper. So the Valley Hopper is this giant earthworm-like, bat-like thing that lives inside of mountains, and it burrows around, and it hops, right, Valley Hopper, from one mountain to the other across the valley, uh, and it glides across from one mountain to another to get from place to place. And that's the Valley Hopper. And that's what I drew for Ridge, because I couldn't think of anything new for this one. So, well, I could have, but I didn't want to. I felt like this was a perfect place to draw this guy again, because I've been wanting to. I think I drew him better in the sketchbook again. Here, let's go to that again. Let's show you all that. Oops, hold up. 1 second. Almost there. Almost there. Here we go. Let me just show you this part. Yeah, there it is. I think it turned out better here. More dynamic, but I needed to make it actually gliding in the prompt drawing to illustrate what it does. But that's. I think it turned out fine here, but I do like the more dynamic pose in the sketchbook. That just kind of happens to me when I do more like illustrations, like full illustrations. I kind of play it safe, and I think I need to stop doing that because when I take a risk, I always end up with something more interesting. Which is why a lot of the drawings in the sketchbook are more interesting dynamically because I'm not afraid of messing up something that I need to do. So yeah, that's the Valley Hopper for number 19 Ridge. Number 20 is Uncharted. Um, I had already drawn a cave, so most people would probably think an Uncharted cave for this. I didn't want to draw another cave, especially since clearly I'm not good at drawing caves. So I decided to go with Uncharted Waters, and I made this kind of sea monster. So it's, got this eye here, it's got these weird little things, frill, and it's kind of like a serpent-like thing. And it's in these really rocky waters in the ocean, and I tried to illustrate fog back here with these kind of like fading out crags, but it didn't really accomplish the way I wanted it to, but that's okay. Moving on. Oh, I just realized how dark it is. I was supposed to do this. Ooh, alright, does that look better or does that look worse? Hold on, let's see. Looks a bit better. Oh well. We'll just keep it consistent. Anyway, number 21 was Rhinoceros. I was so done at this point. I was so done. So this was for Rhinoceros. I did a rhino with a rhino beetle. Um, and yeah, I don't like this. I didn't care though during it, but in my sketchbook, I did draw a lot of normal rhinoceroses, and I liked those quite a bit. So I'm going to show you those. Let's get them in here. There you go. Aren't they beautiful? So, if you want a real rhinoceros thing here, there you go. These are the rhinos for you. Enjoy. But yeah, the actual prompt for rhinoceros, I think I just didn't care at this point. I wanted to be done with it, and I didn't want to do this. So we're gonna move on. 22 was camp. Um, this gave me an opportunity to do a drawing of a creature that I would more typically do, which is a tall, slender figure in a dark forest that's stalking you. That's kind of my go-to most of the time because I like drawing forests. I think they're pretty easy to draw and fun to draw, and I like drawing tall, slender monsters because I think they are nice and uncanny and they're not too difficult to draw. So yeah, I kind of just did that here with this smiling monster with a twisted neck. It's actually facing away from the tent with its body, and then its head is twisted around to look at the tent. So yeah, we are going to move on to the next drawing now. 23 is Rust. Um, the idea for this creature, I think, is actually pretty cool. Well, it's not really a creature. It's more of like a possessed, uh, inanimate object. So this is in an old abandoned castle, and this is like a living Iron Maiden thing, but there's actually a bit more to that for when it opens up. If I can get to the sketchbook thing, I probably should have done this in the illustration, but again, I wanted to play it safe. Stupid of me, I should have just done it. It opens up, and it's like a little sorcerer guy. Kind of got the Dragon Quest vibes with this one. So yeah, I like the idea of it. I don't really like how I illustrated it here, though. But it is what it is. Hindsight's 2020. Should have done something better. But yeah, we'll move on. Number 24 is Expedition. I think this is the best drawing here. This was probably the best drawing I did in this, and it didn't even have a monster. But yeah, the Dragon Quest vibes are definitely present here because I while I was doing Inktober, I was playing through the Dragon Quest series. I'm on Dragon Quest 4 right now. So yeah, definitely wanted to do Dragon Quest vibes. I've just been wanting to draw Dragon Quest stuff, but with Inktober, I haven't really been doing any other drawing because this takes up my time, and I feel like if I do draw something, it's going to take away from my creativity for the Inktober prompts. So yeah, it is what it is. But I really, really like how this turned out. So yeah, let's bask in this, bask in it. I think it's great. There's a tangent here, but that's what it is. Traditional art, sometimes that happens, and there's not much you can do about it. Happy little accident, let's say. Let's move on. 25 Scarecrow. I really like how this one turned out. I think the environment is actually interesting. We have a nice scenery. Well, not much of a scenery, but it gives you an idea of location rather than basic forest or basic desert or whatever. Um, and we've got, like a normal actual scarecrow. And then we've got this big guy in the background of a more creepy, definitely alive scarecrow that's walking about and stalking this pumpkin patch. So yeah, I really like how this one turned out. Moving on. 26 camera. This one had potential, but I was definitely rushed this day because I had to finish this before going to a party. Um, and I think it could have been cooler with a bit more time given. The bark chips aren't very good, but basically this is like some camera monster that is going to stalk you. Uh, is it going to do anything? Probably not. It's just going to watch. Um, and then you might notice I did some more interesting tree designs. I'm probably going to do these a lot more. I think these trees look pretty good. Moving on. Number 27 is Road. I was so done at this point. I was so done with it. This is when the burnout really hit me. Like really, really hit me. I was stuck trying to figure out what to put on this stupid road from I think it was 8 or 9 p.m. to like 11:53 p.m. I was losing my mind. I could not do this any longer. I wanted to quit really badly, but I didn't. I pressed on anyway. And obviously, the burnout shows here of how boring this drawing is. So we're gonna move on. 28 is Jumbo. I actually like this one. This one just kind of hit me and was like good, and I think this is pretty nice. Just some giant, you know, creature. The big old mouth's gonna devour you. Just sitting next to a house, so I can show how giant it is. I think this one turned out pretty good. We're gonna move on to number 29, which is Navigator. So this is the river Styx and the guy who takes you across it. This one didn't turn out very good. I kind of rushed it a bit, I would say. I was really sick of the challenge, if I'm gonna be honest. But you know, it is what it is. Um, I do like how I did the hands in the background here. I think that turned out pretty good. The footprints here, not very good. I mainly put these here to illustrate that this guy's really, really large and not just, normal human size. Um, but yeah, this one's a bit of a miss. We'll say it's a miss. I did like the idea of, having just the eyes and teeth show behind the hood. I think that was cool, but other than that, it's not that good. Number 30 was violin. I didn't want to draw violin. I really didn't. So I just made some guy with a face that looks like a violin. And I put him in a back alley, but it doesn't really look like a back alley because I put nothing here. It looks more like some kind of back rooms maze. I didn't put a lot of effort into this one, so I won't put a lot of effort in talking about it. It's just violin-faced man, and it's, not that great. Moving on to the final one, number 31. This is Landmark. This is the second one that doesn't have a monster in it. Yeah, this is kind of ending off with a whimper rather than a bang, It's okay. It's just a giant sword in the water. It does make the brain think, like, why is there a giant sword in the water? Was this wielded by some giant titan? Um, I think it's a good concept, but the illustration is a bit lacking, I would say. But it's okay. I was just happy to be done with the challenge. And that is the end. Nothing else in here. So, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you would be so inclined. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. So now that I've showed off the fruits of my labor, let's talk about the labor itself. If you're wondering what I'm doing in the background here, I'm just digitalizing the drawing from Expedition. I don't really finish it all the way, but it's, something to have in the background. So, my thoughts on Inktober. The short of it is this. I don't like it at all. But allow me to go a little more in depth than that. I have 4 key points that I'd like to go over, and I'll explain each one as much as I believe is necessary to get my point across. Number 1, burnout. I think this is the most obvious con to the whole challenge. I even mentioned it in my showcasing because it is just that much of an impact. So why does Inktober cause such heavy burnout? Well, it's not as simple as because it makes you draw a lot. That's certainly a factor, but I think the biggest culprits here are that you're forcing yourself to draw a lot, and you're not drawing things that you particularly want to draw. You could probably draw every single day and not get burnt out if the things you're drawing are out of passion for that thing, rather than out of necessity. But as soon as you're forcing yourself to do something, it gets tiring fast. And the strict schedule doesn't allow you time to catch a breather and can become overwhelming easily. Number 2, drawing out of necessity rather than out of passion. I mentioned this in the previous point, but it warrants its own section. I'm going to ask you a question that you can't answer because this is pre-recorded, and I'm going to answer it for you. What makes art fun? In my opinion, it's being able to bring to life something you created in your mind. Well, you're still creating things even if it's prompted, right? That's true. But if you had the ability to create whatever you wanted, and then were forced to limit your creativity to a parameter, would it still be as fun? I personally don't think so. At least, not when it's so frequent and for so long. Number 3, it's time consuming. Doing a drawing takes a lot of time. We all know that very well. There's all the planning, and the sketching, the lining, the shading. If I did these in color, I think I would have lost my mind. You know what makes something time-consuming take longer? Stress. And when you're on the clock to create something within a limited time and restriction, and then repeat that process over and over and over again, you get more and more stressed. And when you get more stressed, it's harder to be creative. The combination of less time and more stress makes it nearly impossible to draw anything for fun during the month. I personally didn't manage to draw anything at all other than the daily prompts, which was really frustrating. Number 4, it associates negative feelings with drawing. This is a collateral effect caused by the other issues of this challenge. The frustration, stress, and anxiety that culminate from this challenge's many faults all happen during or while pondering the incoming act of drawing. It can be difficult to differentiate the negative emotions between the challenge and drawing itself. It should be pretty clear to everyone that this association is very unhealthy for an artist to go through. Even though I've rationalized in my brain that it was the challenge making art so stressful and not drawing itself, those feelings still tend to resurface when I think about drawing. It's certainly a very upsetting development, but hopefully after a little break, I'll get more comfortable with drawing again. Number 4, the prompts. As if the nature of the challenge wasn't bad enough, the prompts themselves are even an issue. So what's my problem with the prompts? Well, every prompt falls into one of 3 categories: thing, aesthetic, or situation. Obviously, there's not much that can be done about that other than to have a nice spread of the 3 kinds of prompts. So they at least did that, right? Well, by my account, there were 5 for aesthetic, 6 for situation, and 20 for thing. Give or take some prompts that can be interpreted in different ways, like camp could be any of these. So no, not an even spread. I think what it really needed was just a few more aesthetic prompts, and it would have felt more balanced. But it doesn't end there. There's a much bigger problem with this prompt list. Why do we have so many prompts that mean practically the exact same thing? Like, here, look at this. Trek, hike, nomadic, roam, expedition, all these prompts are way too similar. How do you manage to convey these separately in an illustration? To back up my point, take a look at this drawing. If I didn't show you the prompt, would you be able to tell which one it was for? This is the most egregious example, but there are some other prompts that are very similar, like drive and road or guidebook and journal. You'd think with a year of preparation that they'd be able to piece together a more diverse list. Conclusion. I don't think that the challenge as currently presented is constructive, healthy, or most importantly, fun. I definitely won't be participating in future Inktobers. The only way I can think of doing this challenge and having a positive experience is to look at the prompt for the day, think about it throughout your day, and then if inspiration strikes, draw it. And if inspiration doesn't strike, just skip that day, rather than dwelling on it. Although I suppose that defeats the purpose of the challenge, but then again, that honestly may be a good thing. That about wraps things up. Please like and subscribe if you feel so inclined, and more importantly, comment below and tell me what you think of Inktober. Was I too harsh, or not harsh enough? Or maybe you're somewhere in the middle in the matter. In any case, thanks for watching. I wish you the best. Till next time.